We want to tell you about the latest video we did on our other channel, Paranormally Listed. On that channel, we have 3 main writers. We had each of them write an original ghost story, and then we had voice actors portray the characters. So it's like a fully casted audiobook with visuals. The first story is about 3 people who visit an abandoned sanatorium that is supposedly haunted. In the second story, a TV executive gets more than he bargains for when he cancels a TV show. Then finally, there's a story of a woman who buys a house with a disturbing history. We would love if you checked out this video and tell us what you think in the comments section. We'll have a link to that video at the end of this video. Before we start today's video, we want to bring you a message from our amazing sponsor, Adventure Escape Mysteries. With a lot of games, it's easy to get bored because it's the same game, level after level. That's why I love Adventure Escape Mysteries. It's an amazing collection of must-have games. They have something for everyone, including haunting murder mysteries, spooky horror games, whimsical adventures, and a mix of nearly every genre you can think of. Regardless of what you choose, each game has engaging puzzles, fascinating storylines, interesting characters, and beautiful artwork. You can download Adventure Escape Mysteries for free by clicking on the link in the description box or scan the QR code. It's available for iOS, Android, and Amazon. If you like escape rooms, Adventure Escape Mysteries is for you because it has the most ingenious escape room gameplay. You explore your environment, and then you have to figure out how to use the clues to escape. When you get the game, you use one of your keys to unlock one of the 23 unique stories, and then you dive in. To get to the next level, you'll have to trust your observation skills, deductive reasoning, and cunning so you can solve the puzzles. As you follow the plot, use your treasures and tools to help you solve the puzzles. There's also an amazing collection of mini-games and puzzles that are a lot of fun to play. But your main goal is to complete the chapter by solving the mystery. Do you have what it takes to become the top mystery solver? Download Adventure Escape Mysteries by clicking on the link in the top of the description or by scanning the QR code and become an escape room expert. Number 3. Dave Navarro. David Michael Navarro was born in June 1967 in Santa Monica, California. In 1975, when Dave was 7, his parents, James Raul Navarro, who went by Mike, and Constance Colleen Navarro, divorced. After the split up, Dave lived with his mother in Bel Air, but his parents shared custody. Constance had worked as a model, and she had been model on The Price is Right. Dave started playing the guitar when he was 12, and he was heavily influenced by Jimi Hendrix. In high school, he played in the marching band with Stephen Perkins. On March 4, 1983, 15-year-old Dave was thinking of staying at his mother's home, but he ended up going to his father's home. The next day, Mike Navarro received a call from a person who was a mutual friend of him and his ex-wife. The friend said that Constance had missed an appointment. Mike tried to call Constance several times, but he couldn't get a hold of her. He went over to her condo and made a grisly discovery. 41-year-old Constance was dead. She had been shot in the chest. Mike also found the body of Constance's good friend, 42-year-old Susan Jory. She had been shot once in the head. The house had not been ransacked and nothing had been stolen. The police quickly identified a suspect, Constance's ex-boyfriend, John Riccardi. Constance and Riccardi started dating in 1980. By 1982, the relationship had unraveled and they broke up and got back together several times. In January 1983, Constance ended the relationship permanently. Riccardi then began to stalk Constance. In February 1983, Dave was home from school because he was sick. He was home alone in his mother's condo and he heard someone come inside. He thought it was his mother, but it was Riccardi. He was armed with a gun and he aimed it at Dave. Dave kept Riccardi calm and then Riccardi handcuffed him to a toilet. When Constance came home, she and Riccardi argued for about 20 or 30 minutes. Then Riccardi came into the washroom and uncuffed Dave. He told Dave not to tell his mother what had happened. Dave was afraid, so he didn't say anything to her. So while the police had a suspect in the murders, they couldn't find him. John Riccardi was gone. While no progress was made on the case, life, as it does, continued for Dave Navarro. In 1986, when he was 19, he joined Jane's Addiction, a new band started by Perry Farrell from the ashes of his former band, Psycom. Dave was recommended by Jane's Addiction drummer Stephen Perkins, who went to high school with Dave. The band quickly found success and they signed with Warner Brothers Records. In August 1988, they released their debut studio album, Nothing Shocking. It was a moderate hit, peaking at 103 on the Billboard 200. 2 years later, in August 1991, Jane's Addiction released their second album, Ritual de lo Habitual. It reached number 12 on the Billboard 200. That same month, America's Most Wanted aired a segment about Dave's mother's murder. They told people to be on the lookout for John Riccardi. After the episode aired, the show's hotline received a tip. The caller said that Riccardi was living in Houston, Texas. Riccardi was arrested on January 4, 1991, 8 years after the murder. In 1991, Jane's Addiction broke up because of personal problems between the band members. In September 1993, Dave joined the Red Hot Chili Peppers. In July 1994, John Riccardi went to trial for the murder of Constance Navarro and Susan Jory. He was found guilty and he was sentenced to death. Weeks after the trial, Dave Navarro played with the Chili Peppers at Woodstock 94. He then recorded his only album with the Chili Peppers, 1995's One Hot Minute, which featured the hits My Friends, Aeroplane, and Warped. Dave Navarro also played guitar on Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know and Piggy by Nine Inch Nails. Unfortunately, during this time, Dave was addicted to cocaine and heroin. His drug addiction was the main reason he was asked to leave the Chili Peppers in 1998. In the late 1990s, Dave managed to kick his drug habit. He played guitar with different bands and even recorded 2 more Jane's Addiction albums. He also played on songs by P. Diddy, Christina Aguilera, Gene Simmons, and Tommy Lee. Dave Navarro also started to do some TV work. In 2005 and 2006, he hosted 2 seasons of the singing competition show Rockstar. In 2012, John Riccardi's death penalty was overturned because of an error by the judge. He was sentenced to life without parole. That same year, Dave became host and one of the judges on the reality tattoo competition show Ink Masters. The show ran for 8 seasons. Then it was announced that the show would be revived in 2022 and Dave Navarro would return as host. In 2015, Dave Navarro released the documentary Morning Sun. The documentary is about the murder of his mother and his attempts to deal with her murder through drugs and his art. Dave Navarro's mother's killer, 87-year-old John Riccardi, is serving a sentence at the California Institution for Men. Number 2. Nicey Nash-Betts. Nicey Nash-Betts was born Carol Denise Sensley in February 1970 in Palmdale, California. She attended California State University, Dominguez Hills, in Carson, California, and got a degree in drama. Her first acting role was a minor one in the 1995 dramedy Boys on the Side. The following year, she made her television debut with a minor role on Fox's Party of Five. Her first major role was a 4-episode story arc on CBS's hospital drama City of Angels in 2000. Nicey continued to get guest spots on shows like NYPD Blue, Judging Amy, CSI, and ER. 2003 was a big year for Nicey. She was cast in Comedy Central's Reno 911 as Deputy Renisha Williams. The show initially ran for 6 seasons on Comedy Central. It was revived in 2020 to air on the streaming platform Quibi. They were contracted to make 2 seasons for Quibi. The 7th season was made available on Quibi, but Quibi was a disaster and it only lasted 9 months. So the 8th season premiered on Roku. Reno 911 also spawned 2 movies, Reno 911 Miami in 2007 and Reno 911 The Hunt for a QAnon in 2021. Nicey appeared in all 8 seasons in both movies. She is also set to appear in the 2022 movie Reno 911 It's a Wonderful Heist. Also in 2003, Nicey became the host of Clean Home, a home makeover and interior design show on the Style Network. In each episode, professionals help a family clean and declare their home. Then they have a yard sale and use the profits to do home maintenance. Nicey hosted the show for 10 seasons. In 2010, the show won the Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Daytime Special. After Clean House and Reno 911, Nicey continued to find roles in films and television shows regularly. This included the HBO comedy Getting On, for which she was nominated for 2 Primetime Emmys. She also starred in the TNT dramedy Claws for 4 seasons. In 2019, she was in Netflix's limited series When They See Us. Once again, she was nominated for an Emmy. 2022 was another big year for Nicey Nash-Betts. She co-starred in Monster, Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Dahmer was a huge hit for Netflix and is one of their most watched series ever. Nicey was also cast as the lead in the spin-off of the ABC police drama The Rookie. The Rookie, Feds, debuted in September 2022. Nicey has 3 children with her former husband, Don Nash. In 2020, she married singer Jessica Betts. While Nicey has had a successful career filled with many comedic roles, the roots of her comedy are depressing. Nicey had a younger brother, Michael Ensley. On February 22, 1993, a day before Nicey's 23rd birthday, 17-year-old Michael attended school at Reseda High School in Los Angeles. Michael was part of a group of young men who graffitied surfaces. That morning, he got into an argument with a 15-year-old boy named Robert Lee Hurd Jr., who was in a rival graffiti crew. Hurd was not supposed to be at school that day because he had been expelled. As the boys argued in the busy school hallway, Hurd pulled out a gun and shot Michael in the chest. Hurd ran from the school. 17-year-old Michael Ensley was rushed to the hospital, but tragically, he was pronounced dead a short time later. Robert Hurd was arrested a short distance from the school. In April 1993, Hurd was convicted of murder. He was sentenced to the maximum. He would have to stay in the custody of the California Youth Authority until he was 25. Nicey and Michael's mother, Margaret Ensley, was deeply bothered by Michael's murder. She blamed the school for having lax security. After the murder, Margaret was understandably depressed. Nicey knew that she could get her mother to laugh. so she worked on her comedy skills to lift her mother's spirit. Margaret eventually started the group Mothers Against Violence in Schools, also known as MAVIS. Today, Nicey is the face of the organization. In 2001, Robert Hurd was released and he moved to Shreveport, Louisiana. In 2003, Hurd was involved in a domestic dispute. He was in an apartment with his girlfriend, her 2 children, and his girlfriend's friend. Robert fired several gunshots and the friend escaped. Then Hurd barricaded himself inside the apartment with his girlfriend and her children. When the police arrived, Hurd fired several shots at them. Luckily, no one was shot. There was a 30-minute standoff. Then Hurd surrendered peacefully. He was convicted of attempted murder. He was incarcerated and then released in July 2011. After he was released, he married Demetra Doyle. 4 months after getting married, in September 2012, the police were called to the couple's home. They found 35-year-old Demetra dead in a pool of blood. Her body was badly burned. She had been stabbed over 40 times and then set on fire. Hurd was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. He went to trial nearly 5 years later. The trial lasted 2 days. Then the jury voted 11-1 to convict him of second-degree murder. In Louisiana at the time, the jury did not have to come to a unanimous verdict when convicting someone. So Hurd was found guilty and he was sentenced to life without parole. But then, in April 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Louisiana juries must come to a unanimous decision when convicting someone. So a new trial was ordered for Robert Hurd. He went to trial again in April 2022. He was found guilty of second-degree murder and he was sentenced to life without the chance of parole. He is currently serving a sentence at the Louisiana State Prison in Angola, Louisiana. Number 1. Chuck Palahniuk. Chuck Palahniuk is a best-selling author, best known for his 1996 novel, Fight Club, which was made into a 1999 movie directed by David Fincher and starring Edward Norton and Brad Pitt. Charles Michael Palahniuk was born in Pasco, Washington on February 21, 1962, to Fred and Carol Palahniuk. The family lived in a mobile home in Burbank, Washington. When Chuck was 14, his parents divorced. After that, Chuck and his siblings spent much of their time at their maternal grandparents' cattle ranch. Chuck had never met his maternal grandparents because they had died years earlier when his father was still a child. He had heard they had died of diphtheria. When Chuck was 18 years old, his father, Fred, told him the truth. Fred was one of Nick and Prescott Palahniuk's 13 children. Prescott often went by the name Paula. When Chuck explains how to pronounce his name, he explains it's a combination of his grandparents' names, Paula and Nick. The family lived on a farm in Elmira, Idaho. On December 16, 1943, Nick and Paula had a series of arguments. Apparently, it was over the purchase of an expensive sewing machine. Nick grabbed a shotgun and shot 50-year-old Paula to death in front of their oldest child, a daughter who was 15. Nick then shot himself. He was 53 years old. When Chuck talks about the murders to journalists, he said that his father, who was just 4, hid under a bed while his dad searched for him. After he couldn't find him, he shot himself. Chuck attended the University of Oregon's School of Journalism and graduated in 1986. He settled in Portland, Oregon. He got a job with a newspaper, but decided to leave. He found work as a front axle installation man and a service documentation specialist at Freightliner Trucks. He worked there for 13 years while he worked on his writing. In 1995, he wrote the book that he would become famous for, Fight Club. It was published in August 1996. It won several awards, and Fox 2000 Pictures purchased the film rights. Fight Club was filmed in 1998. In January 1999, Chuck's second novel, Survivor, was published. In the spring of 1999, Chuck's father, Fred, was dating a lawyer, 44-year-old Donna Fontaine. In the last week of May 1999, Fred and Donna were spending the weekend at Donna's brother's home. Donna's brother, Gary Fontaine, lived outside of Kendrick, Idaho. Around 7:30 p.m. on May 29, 1999, Donna's brother, Gary, returned home after being at a friend's home. He saw that Donna's car was in the driveway. He smelled smoke and discovered his garage was on fire. When the fire department arrived, the garage was engulfed in flames. Several people were there and they tried to put out the fire. This included Dale Shackelford, Donna's ex-husband, his fiancée, Sonia Betts, and her parents, John and Mary Betts. After the fire was put out, 2 bodies were found inside of it. They were burned beyond recognition. They were eventually identified as 44-year-old Donna Fontaine and 59-year-old Fred Palahniuk. The medical examiner determined that they had both been shot to death before the fire. They both had been shot with 2 guns, which belonged to Donna. The fire chief concluded that the fire was an act of arson. The police suspected that Donna's ex-husband, Dale Shackelford, killed the couple. Shackelford and Donna got married in December 1995. They split up in the summer of 1997 and divorced in November 1997. In early 1998, Donna filed charges against Shackelford, claiming he had raped her in July 1997. The police believe that Shackelford killed Donna to beat the rape charges. The only evidence against him would have been her testimony. The problem for the police was that they didn't have any evidence that tied Shackelford to the murders. The police talked to 3 women that Shackelford had dated. They all said that Shackelford had asked them to help him kill Donna. One of them even attempted to kill Donna twice, but backed out both times. They all said that Shackelford was abusive and he had sexually degraded them. The police interviewed a man who lived near the crime scene. He said that Shackelford had asked him to provide an alibi for the time of the murders. He also asked him the best way to dispose of bodies. One thing that the police thought was odd was that Fred and Donna were killed when Donna's brother Gary wasn't home. At the time of the murder, Gary happened to be at the home of Sonia Betts, Shackelford's fiancée. The police did not think that was a coincidence. They believed that Shackelford manipulated Sonia and her mother into luring Gary over to their home so that he could kill Donna and Fred. One of the 3 women Shackelford had manipulated, Bernadette Lestatter, said that Shackelford had asked her to kill Sonia. Although the police didn't have any physical evidence, they arrested Dale Shackelford on February 11, 2000. In one of his pockets, they found a suicide note supposedly written by Lestatter. The police theorized that Shackelford would get Lestatter to kill Sonia, and then he would kill Lestatter to make it look like a suicide. This would tie off 2 loose ends. Dale Shackelford's trial started on October 16, 2000. The trial lasted 54 days. Shackelford's lawyer pointed out that there was no physical evidence that connected him to the murders. He said that Donna and Fred were killed in a murder-suicide, or Sonia Betts and her 17-year-old brother, Brian Betts, committed the murders. The lawyer said that Shackelford had no reason to kill his ex-wife and her new boyfriend. He was confident he was going to beat the rape charges. Shackelford's 3 former girlfriends testified against him. Then the jury deliberated for 2 days. Shackelford was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder, first-degree arson, preparing false evidence, conspiracy to commit murder, and conspiracy to commit arson. He was sentenced to death. Shackelford appealed his conviction and sentence. On June 1, 2011, it was ordered that he was to be resentenced. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that juries, not judges, should impose death sentences. In September 2011, Shackelford was given 2 life sentences. Months after his father's murder in September 1999, Chuck Palahniuk's 3rd novel, Invisible Monsters, was published. A month later, the movie Fight Club opened in theaters in North America. Eventually, the movie made just over $100 million on a $65 million budget. It fell below studio projections, and it was considered a failure. But then the movie found life in the home video market and became a massive cult hit. Currently, it's number 12 on IMDb's top 250 movies. It also made Chuck Palahniuk a very popular writer. In 2001, he published his 4th novel, Choke, which was partly inspired by his father. Choke was made into a film in 2008. Clark Gregg directed it, and it stars Sam Rockwell and Angelica Houston. After Choke, Chuck Palahniuk has gone on to publish 15 other novels, 3 non-fiction books, 2 graphic novels, both of which are sequels to Fight Club, and 2 adult coloring books. The last book he published was The Invention of Sound in 2020. There have been plans to make 2 of his novels, Lullaby and Rand, into films, but no progress has been made on either film in years. Chuck Palahniuk splits his time between his homes in Portland, Oregon and Vancouver, Washington. He lives with his partner, whom he met while he was working at Freightliner. The man who killed his father, Dale Shackelford, is serving his sentence at the Idaho Correctional Center in Boise, Idaho. Thank you so much for watching today's video. We also want to say a big thank you to this video's sponsor, Adventure Escape Mysteries. You should check out Adventure Escape Mysteries today because it's a ton of fun. It's free to download and it's available for iOS, Android, and Amazon. To download the game, click on the link in the description box or scan the QR code. Once again, thank you so much for watching.